Hi everyone, Ben from Zen with Ben here, and I am here today to chat with my good friend Maria Dummermuth. She is a Pilates instructor and a sound healer. She does a lot of movement in sound. This is one of her favorite things to talk about, and I'm excited to get into her use of sound today. She's based in Boulder, and she's a mentor and a teacher at the Atma Sound and Vibrational School. And here's lovely Maria with her singing bowl there. And I'm so excited to speak with her today because she's one of my mentors and she has a lot of experience with sound and has studied in India and Nepal, and just looking forward to getting into her practice a little bit more. Here's another photo from her studio. She was based in Iowa. Now she's in Boulder full time, but this was her studio with another practitioner named Sarah. Look at those beautiful bowls. And this crossed mallets. Oh my God, this is such a good team. So I'm really looking forward to having her on today. And if you have any comments or questions for myself or for Maria while she's here, you can drop those into the comment box and I should be able to catch them for us. And so without much further ado, because I'll let her introduce herself, I'd like to bring on, still getting used to the, into eCam. Well, it's not worth messing with. Okay, let's bring her on. Let's bring on my good friend Maria. There she is. Hi, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, we've got you on now. So, I have to scoot this way.
Oh, good, okay.
We are kicking. How are you today?
I am doing amazing. I had to switch my view here because I thought you should absolutely see my bowls because
and the
they're
koshi
a little bit
chimes in the
quiet now
back.
during this time. Yeah, so everything's here. It's always here wherever I go. So
Yeah, this is fantastic. So do you mind just talking a little bit about your background and how you got into sound healing, and how did you come to get this this collection that's behind you here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in your introduction of me, sound and movement have always been part of my background. It has just been. I don't even know if I can remember when I started doing aerobics and that whole process of sound and movement. It was Jane Fonda. I mean, moving and sound, moving and sound, always having that rhythm within me. And over the years, that's kind of evolved for me. It always started out as that physical movement, that physical process. And as I transitioned from like group fitness and working out, and I was teaching a lot of classes in that modality, I was kind of shifted into the field of Pilates. And again, Pilates is a very technical field. It has to do with alignment, structural based, the medicine, the science. And there was a point where I felt like, my gosh, I just needed something more organic, something more related to what we are as humans. And my teacher in Pilates had also taken us through many different sources of energetic work for our education. So we had practiced matrix energetics, if you're familiar with that, Reiki, lots of different meditation practices, and we incorporated that into our Pilates work. But somehow this particular field, it just didn't really make sense to me. And I started doing my yoga training with Shiva Ray. She teaches prana flow vinyasa, which is, if you've never done that work, it's amazing. It truly is about moving that pulsation of life through your body through yoga, and it's awesome. It's amazing. And so that is the style of yoga that I do teach. And in the meantime, I had a couple of friends, and we were not getting along. We were not connecting. And so I said to them, well, let's go do this singing bowl sound therapy thing that I had seen in the building where I had my studio previously. And we went, and this woman played the singing bowls for us. And, for the first time in my life, I could just, I could feel everything that I had learned about. I could feel how energy moved in the body, how chi moved in the body, how prana moved in the body. And it was because of that vibration of connecting with whatever source was speaking to me at that moment. And I was so hooked. I was so hooked. at that particular time. I know they would feel differently now, but they were like, that is the weirdest thing ever. And they didn't really want anything to do with it. But I knew, I just knew because I could feel it. And of course, then I wanted more, right? So I wanted to learn about it. And so I ended up, through a course of events, the woman who had worked with us, she instructed me to just to simply go to a store and find a singing bowl and start practicing. And lo and behold, both Ben's teacher and my teacher, Serena Trust, the shelf, almost as if I studied. And I think that's part of vibration is in that current, whether it's sound, it's movement, whatever it is. And when I opened that book, everything just started to go into the flow. I found the training I was supposed to go to. The flights were easy. And ever since then, I just never really looked back. I continued my training with Seren. I took sound healing back to Iowa, which I was so excited to do because it's so needed everywhere. But it was just such a fun, amazing blessing. The ability to transition my practice of what used to be Pilates and yoga, and most of my clients to sound healing. And it was so fun. It was so fun. In the meantime, I ended up taking my teacher training with Seren. So I ended up teaching about the singing bowls. I've taught in Florida and Iowa and Virginia. I've got to do some really wonderful, amazing things. But I think how it really started to evolve was that there was another gal. So there's three of us in the Atma Buddhi. The three Marias, we call them Marias. Maria D, Maria N. And Maria N and I were together. And, we really need to work on evolving this curriculum. And because it was all just a written couple pages, and the beauty of the work at Atma Buddhi is that it's a lot of receiving sound and receiving the word. And that's how we also see vibration. So I ended up assisting Maria N, Maria Nunez. She's a psychiatrist out in Seattle, amazing gal, and Dr. Ken Glowacki, who runs the osteopathic and natural medicine school in Seattle as well. And Portland, Oregon. I said Seattle on that one. And so we ended up helping write this curriculum for the school, and kind of got me into the flow. It's pulled me out into Boulder, so now I'm working for the Atma Buddhi school. But I also still love doing sound healing sessions. And that is the beauty of this work, is sharing sound and vibration with others.
Yeah, I think, wow. And what a beautiful...
Kind of a long story introduction there, but...
No, fantastic. And you've landed on a couple key things that I've noticed with practitioners that kind of all have in common. I love hearing everyone's, genesis story, like what that one experience was that they're like, oh my God, this is it. And it's funny that you came to it in an effort to bond with your friends or your colleagues, and it didn't seem like it really stuck because it seems like it spoke to you more than it spoke to them, but it really took you down this beautiful trajectory. And I think there's an appropriate and very natural pairing with sound and movement. That's been going on since the dawn of mankind in that way of bringing in the chanting and the drumming and that kind of pulsing and dancing and rhythmic kind of component to it. And I'm definitely appreciative of all of your work throughout Atma Buddhi. We did lose you for just a little bit there. It was a little bit spotty. So just to cover what you had just said, that where I'm doing my training at Atma Buddhi, Maria did her training there under Master Seren's Sresta as well. And I love that you found this the book in the same way. And Yeah, you also mentioned something that I love, that I remember really standing out to me in my first training with Seren, is that so much of this tradition that we've come from, this lineage, was an oral tradition, and the way that we perceive the sound and receive the sound as a healing modality, it's important to recognize that our voice and the frequencies, our tone, our timbre, and even the words that we use, right speech, mindful speech. They hold true to that in our lineage of teaching, because the way that we give sound, we give our voice and the teachings in the same way, and we're supposed to receive it in the same way. And that really stood out to me as a beautiful practice. Yeah. So
I love it.
No, this is great. I'll show real quick while I have you here. I want to see more about your shelf that's behind you in just a second, but I took some amazing photos of Maria. I walked in, speaking of Atma Booty, I walked in on my first day, and she has this beautiful Himalayan cat that is, oh boy, how do I, oh no, we can't see the kitty. All right, hold on, Maria.
I might have to go grab her from somewhere. I know she's she's hidden in her cat tree. But if we can't find her, I'll pull her out.
I've got a photo of her up here.
Okay.
She was stretched out on this massage table in one of the upstairs rooms at the school there, and was receiving her own sound healing, and was just the most zenned out cat I've ever seen. And so this is Maria's handsome cat. Maria, what is your Himalaya's name?
So her name is Beely, which is Hindi for cat.
Oh, well, perfect. Okay, Beely.
Yes.
So this is a good vocabulary word for all of us, the Beely. With the gongs in the background there, and then I walked downstairs later. Oops, that's Maria, and here she is, stretched out with the singing bowls, which is just so funny, and I'm scrambling to move cameras around, but she receives the sound all the time, doesn't she, Maria? Like, she seems like she's pretty chill about it.
Yes. So in fact, I've had her in my sessions ever since I got her, and she just loves it. I think one of my favorite stories is animals have an innate sense, right, to sense vibration, to sense where the energy is, and she'll oftentimes, when I'm playing with certain clients, get in particular bowls, and she'll stay there. And one of my friends, who is just the most heartfelt, amazing woman you could ever meet, I would be playing the bowls, and Beely would be off to the couch in the side of my therapy room. And every time I would turn away, I'd come back and I'd look, and there she would jump into the heart bowl.
Amazing.
So she was always like, and I would remove her, I'd be like, Beely, let's come out of there. But she could just feel the energy from her heart. And to me, it's so powerful. It just speaks, oodles about, not only the bowls, and the bowls kind of like hold that. It's like a container, really, for that energy, and then how it moves, and then how that vibration moves through us and in and out. But the animals sense it for sure.
Yeah. I found that too. Like, we were talking last week with my friend Tree about how when you're working with the bulls, like, animals inevitably kind of roll in. And I know too, like in Lodro Rensler's writing, he mentions there's kind of this progression of, I'm going to say enlightenment, but let's use that loosely. This kind of progression of your journey, and how you'll start to notice your relationship to beings around you. And it starts first with animals, is what seem to be responding to the subtle changes of a positive mindful trajectory, and then slowly, like, children, and then people, and then spirits, and all these other things get folded in. And so I've always found it really encouraging. So it made my day. There's something really affirming about coming into a practice that was, meant for people, and seeing that the animals were so at home there, and you're like, this is going to be good. And I know Serenji has mentioned working with different animals as well who have PTSD and things. And I think it's really beautiful. So do you mind showing us a little bit about the shelf that's behind you here? Do you have like a favorite instrument?
Gosh. Well, really all my bowls are kind of hidden here today. Normally I would have had my table out.
Yeah.
But during this time, this is now a yoga room now, right? So I'm teaching yoga and Pilates online. So I've kind of moved it around, but my bowls are these are my major babies. Okay. If you ask any sound healer, about their bowl collection, this is not the whole bowl collection.
Right.
Okay. I could take you to the other side, where my mother bowls are.
Oh my God.
So, I have mother bowls over by the fireplace. I've got a gong over on the other side of the room. My tranquility set's on the other side. So, but for the most part, as what we learned through the Atma Buddhi, tradition is that we use 7 bowls for the 7 chakras. So these would be my 7 bowls that I utilize probably the most in my healing sessions. So they're always here. They have a special place. It allows me to, I have a deck that's actually, I'll just kind of pan around here. This is amazing. I have a deck right here.
Oh my God, beautiful. So you can get this great breeze in if you want.
Yeah, so it's really great as a healing room, but also it allows me to just really put the bowls outside anytime. So they're for energetic clearing, the full moon. It's amazing. So I can just put them right out there. It's very convenient for that. And it's just a really beautiful, quiet space here. So, and yes, of course, the Koshi chimes. For those of you who have not heard the Koshi chimes, I know Ben plays these too. So
they're called fairy dust in the industry.
Yeah, is that what they're called, fairy dust?
Yeah, just sprinkle a little fairy dust.
Yeah, just a little fairy dust, and they're so gentle and amazing. So that's another fun toy. So
I've found them to be just instant nostalgia. Just as soon as they go, you're immediately at grandma's house or at the beach or in the meadow or the forest. Like they're very transportational that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very Peter Pan-ish. That's what it takes me to. Peter Pan and Tinkerbell is where it takes me.
That's what I mean. It's that fairy dust. Like you just sprinkle that on. So you touched on something there that I think is really interesting. So I'm curious with your experiences, if you're open to sharing, how you've developed a relationship with your bowls. So you mentioned here that you take care of them energetically. So you're looking out for their well-being in that way. Are there any traditions or any particular routines or practices that you've picked up over the years that are, let's say you're getting a brand new bowl tomorrow. How do you, Maria, go about forging a relationship with that bowl and making sure that it feels integrated and cared for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you asked this question. And because to me, what drew me to the Himalayan singing bowls versus any other type of modality we could utilize is their organic nature. And the bowls are extremely organic. If you were to look at an antique bowl where we would have no idea where it came from, it carries the energy of wherever it's been, of whoever's played it, or whoever's eaten from it. Whatever has happened to that bowl, it carries that energy. Even the bowls that we would now consider modern made still will carry energy from the particular ceremony that was used in creating them, from their journey to get here, all the way down to the metal that was used to create them and where that might have come from. So when you bring a bowl into your family, of course, it may or may not interact with the rest of your family.
Sure.
Whenever I get a bowl, I always, there's various, we use the term a lot, puja, right? Offerings for prosperity, offerings for blessings. And it could just be something as simple as a ceremony, using incense, cleansing our bowls with the moonlight. But before I bring a bowl into our set, I'll always kind of honor that and bless it in a different way. Chanting with it is another way you could bless a bowl. Offering it incense, offering it to the moon, just allowing that process for the bowl to be cleansed and come into your space. And then when it works with the other bowls, it's always, I think that's an amazing, interesting transition too, because sometimes when you get a new bowl, it may sound like a quacking duck in the set of 7 that you have. Okay, you'll play and there's just, and sometimes they might jump right in. But to me, it's always amazing how they change over time.
Oh yeah, and
start to grow and they start to evolve. And this is where the lessons kind of come in about attachment. Like for me personally, one of the first things that Seren has always, said to me has been, don't be overly attached. Just don't be overly attached. And sometimes we think, oh, this is the perfect set. This is the perfect bowl. I can't let go of this bowl. And it's just like it reflects so many of our experiences in life. Like when it's time for that bowl to go, it's time for that bowl to go. And you have to be open to that and allow that. One of my favorite examples is I had this bowl that I thought was just the best thing ever. And I played a duet with a friend of mine. And we knew the second we were playing them that bowl was not for my set. It was for her set. And you could hear it. The bowl was saying it. It was like we would play together, but it was actually playing with her set. It wasn't playing with my set. So we just switched bowls. And you know what? It worked out just fine. So, I mean, there's a lot to learn. It seems like we're just talking about bowls here, but it's really, I feel like it's a lot more. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that they have their own intuitive energies, and they change almost, maybe even daily, depending on what you're working with them or who you're working with, and I've always found that fascinating. Where it really stood out to me was with my first kind of late-term pregnancy client, and not putting bowls on her, but kind of close by, and they were I luck out because of my percussion training. I'm fairly consistent with my touch and my tone, and for what to me was just my normal, everyday, average invitation of sound was extremely gentle. And they seemed to all of a sudden around her with this pregnant state be really just very calm and relaxed. Like the, I can't think of the, I can't think of the term. Doula? Is that right? It had that kind of, it had that kind of, there's not a lot of doulaing happening in my life, apparently. They had that kind of feel where they were like all of a sudden taking over this very matronly kind of custodial dynamic with this client. I found it really fascinating. But yeah, I think this is something that's really interesting for people working not only with the singing bowls, with the gongs as well, and getting used to how they respond in different situations or with different people. And I think it's fascinating. I think it's beautiful that you acknowledge that and we're able to release. We were talking last week too with my friend Tree about the attachment things that come up with bowls, and I think that's really beautiful. Yeah. So what have you been working on lately? I mean, so you've had to make these adaptations now into the virtual world, and I know you're switching and doing some teaching for the yoga and stuff. Have you been finding new ways that your relationship changes? Now, I'm in the same situation here. I'm in my office, but it's empty. So all the bowls are back at my house, and getting used to just being around them and making sure that they take time for themselves and things. But I'm curious if, as you found this switch into shelter in place, what I'm calling shelter in peace, how's your practice changed? Have you been trying anything new? Have you been working on new things? Has new stuff come up for you?
Yeah. And I think this is really interesting because this is pushing all of us, right? This is pushing all of us into different realms. Knowing that you have this amazing background, in music, for some of us that have not had this background of the possibility of recording or working with that type of technology, this is really new territory. And in all honesty, for me, I've kind of struggled a little bit. Part of what was so powerful for me with the singing bowls is the connection. I even struggled when our teacher Seren had introduced a suction cup into the bowls, and I don't know, you probably learned with that, right?
Yes, yeah, I have.
Yeah,
it's
so
here, it looks like this.
Okay, so this is what we use, okay, to move the singing bowl on someone's body if we're in a practice. If for those of you who are not familiar, okay, it's very handy, right?
Oops.
It's very handy because it allows us to move the bowl. I struggled because when I learned we didn't have that, and for me, I can feel that Reiki energy, that sacred energy moving from our hand through the bowl into that person.
Oh, interesting.
So the suction cup felt like I was putting an insulator there, right? So now as we move into this world of technology, I'm trying to find that balance of what's between, how are we connecting? How are we connecting? And knowing that through Reiki and through other practices, we can do that remotely. We can also do that with the bowls too. So I think it's been a learning practice. I've been working with some of my clients in creating some chants for them personally, and just kind of playing with that, playing with some little private recordings for someone that they can use for their own practice. I know a lot of our students are really, really working hard on performing the concerts in this modality, but for me, I still love this connection of one-on-one. That's where my heart is.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been trying to expand my work, and how can I make that happen in a personal way that still gives connection.
I think that's beautiful, and it's no small feat, to work with those adaptations like you mentioned, because when you're used to having someone in the room, you're working with the response of the bowls to their energetic and their resonant field, and it gives you a lot more tangible information, right? Versus working virtually, you're kind of throwing the energy in that direction, which is still good. The intention, as we say, is always really key. One of the things that occurred to me recently is that I felt personally restricted to the geographic proximity, where even if I had the bowls in my space and a nice microphone and a good internet connection, I still wasn't completely sure about the process. And what I realized is that, just like with distance Reiki, all these vibrations, even though it feels like, okay, so you're in Boulder and I'm in Phoenix, like that's a far way to go. But as far as the energy field goes, in terms of intention and in terms of these sound vibrations, that is right next door. And getting used to the idea of sending energy purposefully, intentionally, knowing that in the grand scheme of the cosmos, that's really close by. So it's just a little skip of the stone. So I think reframing it that way has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned intention, because honestly, that's what I would say 99% of our work is about.
Yeah.
Is intention. I mean, how and what are you trying to send out?
Yeah. And that's been an interesting...
That's so important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been such an interesting way to really deepen the practice, is not just, I have a bowl and I have a person, I'm going to use it, but really locking in maybe a grand scheme or a microscopic, or you can get really, sculpty minutiae with your intentions. Yeah. Do you find with your training, because you spent some time in Asia, in India and in Nepal, right? Mm-hmm. I saw a beautiful photo of you in a sari, and it was like, wow, Maria, you pull off a sari so wonderfully. And I think Ruby G was there too, and it looked really great. But do you find with your training and your background with yoga, and your time spent in Asia, do you notice do your intentions, are they in English, or do they get a little shifty sometimes into like Sanskrit or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been so blessed. I haven't actually been to India, but I have been to Nepal twice, and both of my adventures were not extremely blessed as far as for educational and experience wise. But anytime you get to travel, you learn so much. And my first trip to Nepal was maybe more of a vacation wise. My second training to Nepal, I studied with some different medicine men and healers and shamans in the mountains of Nepal. So therefore, I do incorporate some of the chanting and the mantras that they would have used. So I do incorporate that into my practice. And I think it's important to use what you have access to. Mm-hmm. And I think no matter what that is, and I guess whether you've been to Nepal or you've been to India, again, it goes back to intention, because it's all about accessing what you have in your heart and sharing that gift with others. So even if you're chanting a simple hum, and I'm sure this would be something you would say as well, Ben, but it's what you have in your heart that matters the most. So
I think that's beautiful. I'm glad that you said that, and it kind of ties into what we were just speaking to. It makes me think about, with our colleagues or our friends that are kind of struggling right now to make these adaptations, just remembering like maybe just simplify and keep the intention as the roots of what it is, as opposed to worrying so much about like, okay, I'm going to record 15 bowls and I'm gonna get it all, mixed well. And it's like, maybe just use 2 bowls with a really solid intention and see how that goes for someone. That might be something people to try. Yeah.
Exactly.
Shoot. So I had another question for you. It just escaped me. So I'm curious, sorry, this isn't really related to our interview, but is Atma Booty, are they closed at the moment? Are you all sheltering in place?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. In Boulder right now, we are on stay-at-home orders unless you're an essential business. So the business corporation that we actually are under the umbrella of is Serenity Tibet, is a wholesale Himalayan and Tibetan goods importing company. And the Atma Booty School is underneath that. So at this point, yeah, we are shut down. We have been asked not to go to work. We've been trying to figure out how we're going to keep classes going. Our next group is scheduled to come mid-May, and we are just hoping and praying that things will be okay by then. But I've kind of been saying now, the only thing that's certain is that we're uncertain. Yeah. So that's about where we're all at right now.
There's a genius for the situation where it kind of pulls you into the day by day, into the present moment, where, that's terrifying and it's really hard to plan around. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of old Asian traditions, Eastern traditions, have kind of been thinking this way for a long time. And so it's interesting to get forced into it a little bit. So, has it allowed you in your own personal practice to I was talking the other day about how I'm not sure that it's worth my time anymore to try to adapt my previous routine into now. I feel like I should just start with a new routine and not try to struggle with that anymore. So I'm curious, have you, in your own practice at home, in your personal practice, have you noticed a shift? Have you been working on anything, differently now?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I woke up today and my normal routine is I hike on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that, because I'm doing this, and I woke up this morning and not only did my mind, but my body said, no, that's not what you're meant to do today. And I still have my morning meditation, but my meditation on certain days is moving. It's a walking meditation. And that's just part of my practice. But it was different today. And I honored that. And I feel like we have this opportunity now to get up and really learn to listen deeply to ourselves, to what it is we're supposed to be doing, where we're supposed to be going, and simply trust that it's the right thing to do. And I think it's an amazing gift that we've been given.
I think that's beautiful, and I'm curious to see how we all come out of it. And I'm glad you're listening so deeply, and I hope more people are kind of taking that same philosophy into account. And I forgot that you were doing all these hikes. So you were doing a hike a week, right?
Well, I have been up to about 3. I've been training for this 52 hike challenge, and then also a 5 peak challenge that we were supposed to do in May, but that won't be happening. But for me, and part of being able to be here in Boulder now is this ability to be in nature, because that vibration of being outside is probably one of the most healing and powerful things that I know for me. A lot of my meditations, I will just take a simple bowl and I go for a hike, and I'll do my meditation at sunrise at the top of a mountain. And that for me, that's like complete bliss right there. So
I think that's beautiful. And
I can be training, but it's bliss.
Yeah. Have you, sorry, I thought of 2 questions simultaneously. I love bringing bowls with me places, but the bowl that I always really want to bring, speaking of attachment, when you're going on a hike, is always practically just it's way too big. Why would I should start bringing smaller bowls? So is there a bowl in particular that you tend to hike with, or does it shift? Because when I get up and I go to work with a bowl in the morning, I tend to kind of feel who needs attention today, and you can feel that connection, and who I feel like I haven't spent time with, or who kind of feels like they need more time with me. Do your hikes kind of work the same way, or do you have that one bowl that's the hiker bowl?
Yeah. I love that you asked that too, because, for those of us that sit here and talk to our bowls, which guilty I am right here, oftentimes I will just ask, which bowl needs to go today. And when I play them, usually the one that's supposed to go tells me. And I do have a 3 bowl set that I would love to take the most because they sound really lovely and they make a beautiful triad, But is that always the one that needs to go? No.
Yeah.
So I try to have faith, and then, whatever bowl ends up going with me, whatever discussions or chants that we have together on our little adventure are just icing on the cake. So
I think that's incredible, and I really would encourage a lot of people to spend as much time one-on-one with their instruments as they can, because you start to, you're not going to know when if you're working with someone, right, and there's an abnormality or there's or something that kind of needs attention. I think the only way to really catch those signals from your tools, from your instruments, is to be familiar enough with them to notice, like, hey, they're raising a flag on this, and so it's always my hope to hear how people are making that connection with their instruments in that way, and even the gongs. And I wonder too if the koshi chimes, but maybe I'm just not like attuned to it just yet. But they might have some say in it. But I think the nature is absolutely key. I think you've nailed on that, and that's what I'm noticing. I've been feeling at my best lately is just that connection. And I'm deeply enjoying all these videos around right now of like deer in Tokyo and dolphins in Venice and all these animals coming back. Yeah, are the like deer running through Boulder yet?
Well, we are getting a little bit more pictures of the mountain lions. I think that's what people are a little more entertained with right now. But the deer are definitely around. We got 8 to 10 inches of snow last night, but prior to that, we had been seeing some bear activity because the bears are coming out of hibernation now. It was 70 degrees before that, so the animals are coming out, and it's awesome because they're ready to be here too. So
yeah, I think that's really cool. So with all the snow coming in, I'm always kind of curious about this. Have you found for you that your bowls respond better at certain altitudes or temperatures than others? I always wonder if secretly, if they came from the Himalayas, if they have like a secret desire to be at cold, high altitudes or not. That's a really great question, because I'm sure you see that in different instruments, right? That they perform differently at different altitudes. Yeah. And I firmly believe, especially now that I'm working in the warehouse, and I use quite a bit between here and Iowa, of course, definitely different elevations. And the bowls would definitely have a different sound in Iowa than they would here. And I know sometimes when we'll send a bowl to someone, if I was to send a bowl to you, it would sound different here in Boulder than it would in Arizona. Yeah. So I do believe that the altitude does affect it. Do they wish to be in like the Himalayas and Mount Everest? I don't know. I think they would appreciate that they've been spread, hopefully willingly, but that they're seen as a valuable voice in every community, and I think that they would appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious too. Like, is there a beginner practice, if like one-on-one with you in a bowl, like if you're going to sit down and get to know a bowl, is there a beginning practice that you like to do or that you'd be willing to share for our viewers?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think I can do that very easily.
I'm putting you on the spot a bit, and there's so many things you can do.
I know. I mean, one of the favorite things that I love to do, so many people are afraid of using their voice with the bowl. Yeah. And I think that is one of the most powerful things we can ever do, is use our voice, right? So I'm going to see if I can balance this little guy here. I think I can balance it here.
I believe in you.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Now I don't know if you can hear me because I also have my earbuds in. I don't know if the bowl will actually play.
Oh, sure. Oh yeah.
Will you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, you do hear that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay. So, so for someone that's new to the singing bowls, there's a couple different ways you can invite them. I have what's called a striking mallet. Mm-hmm. We like to prefer to call it an inviter, because striking is not a term that, I don't know, it just sounds like
it's a little hostile.
Not a friendly term.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds hostile, and we want to invite something that's positive. And even when you're inviting a bowl, it's about allowing the sound to blossom and expand, and allowing how you create contact with that to expand that sound as well. We also utilize these mallets for rubbing. Okay. And I'm not sure you'll be able to hear this either. It's going to be more of a vibrational quality.
Yeah.
Very quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these two methods right here, just using the bowl by inviting sound first and bringing that bowl right up to your vocal cords. Okay. Not only does that allow your ears to hear the sound, it allows that vocal cord to kind of sense that vibration that's going on there. Okay. And the simplest thing that any beginner can do is hum. We don't have to chant. We fancy big compilations, but bringing that humming vibration into your body is extremely healing. It's calming for the nervous system. And it also just helps to really bring a little bit of peace into your daily life. So if I had to say one easy thing to do is just starting to hum with your bowl.
I think it's beautiful. And even just the image of you there, like it's very soft and compassionate, very, very tender of you with this bowl, and you're getting it in a very vulnerable, this is a soft, vulnerable part of our body, and we're inviting the bowl right into it. And yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I think it's really lovely. And I'm curious then, do you find yourself subconsciously setting an intention here? Like, I feel like this is a nice time to start developing the relationship, the correlation between intention and the action.
Yeah, and I feel like with any practice, it's a learning curve, right? And whether you're setting an intention for your meditation, for your yoga practice, for your practice with the bowls, it's really key. Saying that intention out loud is extremely helpful because it not only reverberates it within your own body, but it offers it out to the divine, to the universe. So getting into a practice where you set an intention, whether it's something simple as I'm going to have a great day, or setting an intention like I feel like I have to let go of this anger I'm holding towards so-and-so. And then you say it out loud in a positive way, using positives, not I will not do this, I shall not do this, but I instead offer healing and a release of this anger, versus I am not angry, and using that positivity. And then when you seal it sound, it also really helps to really seal that within your being as well. So,
I think that's beautiful.
I've found in practice.
Oh, I think it's great. You landed on something earlier too that I take for granted is my own level of self-doubt. You forget that there's a cosmic consciousness, and or these like little spirit consciousnesses, tucked away, elementals or whatever. And so to ask like, well, which bowl do you take? Is like, well, like if I'd come to you and I said, Maria, I just don't know which bowl to take on a hike, and just like, did you ask them? I was like, no, I always forget to ask them. And I love that you have this really innate gift at like remembering just to like, did you just say it? Like, just say it. And you're like, oh yeah. Like there's a second step in the communication that I seem to always, fall short on. But I feel like once it locks in, it just seems to like smooth things out quite a bit. Yeah. Any other closing thoughts, words of wisdom, messages of hope and love that you'd want to share today?
I just want to say that, the singing bowls they're an amazing, we can call them an instrument. We can call them a tool in our toolbox. But what I really feel like they mostly are is it's another channel that allows us to not only connect with the divine, but connect with ourselves so that we can also connect more deeply with others. And I feel like that is the most healing gift that I've received from this particular modality. And I will thank Seren and Ruby Shrestha day in and day out, because what I've learned from them in regards to sound and peace and and self-love has translated into so many different areas of my life. And I'm just so extremely grateful. I'm so grateful to get to talk to these amazing healers like Ben. It's just, I feel really lucky. So thank you very much for having me today.
Oh, I was so excited to have you, and thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and your wisdom. Hang tight. I'm gonna show, if anyone wants to reach out to Maria, you can reach her here. This is her contact information. However, I should note that she's no longer in Cedar Rapids. She's made the full-time switch to Boulder, but you can still reach her here at Sage Practices and sagepractices.com. This is all good contact information for her. And look how cute that owl is. She did such a nice job. And then as far as my stuff goes, as I'm signing off here, just a casual reminder, still running a Patreon. You can be a benefactor for $10 a month. I'll send you guided meditation audio, help support the spread of mindfulness and just bringing guided meditation into everyone's life as far and as long as I can. And if you're interested in virtual sessions, now offering virtual sessions here as well, you can contact me at my website here below. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, special big thank you to my friend Maria here. Let's give you a round of applause. That's what we were looking for, Maria. So great. Everyone else, have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you, Ben.